Welcome to the Four Seasons Podcast, brought to you by B&H Wealth Strategies, serving Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia since 1966. Here, we guide you through the ever-changing seasons of your financial journey, offering insights to help you grow, protect, and enjoy your wealth. Ready to turn your financial dreams into reality? Dare to dream. And now, here's your host, President of B&H Wealth Strategies, Jeff Bingham.
Ever wondered what it's like inside one of the most influential financial hubs in the world? Jeff shares insights from his visit to the New York Stock Exchange, including what he's learned, who he met, and what this experience means for investors. Welcome back, everyone. Skip Monty co-host / producer back in the studio with President of B&H Wealth Strategies, Jeff Bingham. Jeff, how you been this week?
I've been great, Skip. How you doing?
Doing just fine. We're getting ready for the big holiday, and hope you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the 4th of July coming up as we were here a couple of days before that in the studio recording. Yeah, I think it really is a very special holiday. You know, in my opinion, the 249th birthday of this country. Yeah, it's quite remarkable where what was built 249 years ago and what still exists today. Pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
So,
amen.
Good time to kind of salute and be proud to be an American.
Amen, brother. Amen. Visiting the New York Stock Exchange, which you just did recently, Jeff, it's a really big deal. I'm excited to hear about what you saw and how it shapes your perspective on the market. So, Jeff, tell us about your recent visit to the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, speaking of American iconic institutions and things, right? It's kind of appropriate to be talking about that, I think, at this point in time. Yeah, as I think we might have alluded to, I can't remember if it was off air last time we recorded anyway, I was fortunate enough to be invited to, and this was back, I think my visit to the exchange was actually on June 9th, so let's say the first half of June, when it was able to go to New York. As I said, fortunate enough to be invited to go on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and also backstage, if you will, kind of behind the scenes a little bit at the exchange as well. And it's not something that a lot of people ever get to do. I mean, it is, you got to have an invitation. You got to be, it's not necessarily being connected. I've just been in this business a long time and I know some people. And so it kind of occurred as a result of that. But, it's not a tourist attraction. You can't just walk in. I mean, you got to be, they do background checks and everything. And I didn't really realize that or think about that until I was going up there. But it's quite a vetting process to not only get an invitation, but then you also have to be vetted out to see if you qualify. So fortunately, I was able to pass the background check and go in. And I would say my experience. I mean, it was a bucket list thing for me. Something I've always wanted to do, and I wouldn't say that it was that it was disappointing in any way, but it was different than in some instances of the way that I would have thought about it. There's little offices or kiosks almost where there's everything is computerized and it's with algorithms. So there's still a lot of human beings that are in there and traders that are conducting things, but they're sitting with telephone, hooked up to telephone lines, and they're sitting in front of computers doing it, all day long. And like when you're in there, you wouldn't know whether it was whether there was 1,000-point sell-off going on or 1,000. We were there towards the latter part of the day, the closing bell. But again, whether it was 1,000-point sell-off, 1,000-point gain, or just a flatline kind of day, and we were kind of a flatline kind of day. We were in there, but it'd be the same, and that was, and I'd been told that, but to experience it that way was interesting. But with that being said, the building itself is beautiful. I mean, it was built in 1903. And at the time, it was and I don't know, I'm still not sure about this. I don't know that probably wasn't. I don't know if it's the tallest building, because it's not a real tall building, but it's an expansive space that it is. And so it was the biggest building. It was the most modern building in New York when it was built in 1903. Therefore, it received all of the technology of the day was put into the building. I think it was the first building maybe in the world, but certainly in North America, in the United States, with air conditioning, as an example.
Wow.
been because of what it what it was and what it symbolized. So again, it's and the architecture is quite extraordinary. There's a lot of where they're holding a lot of the computer screens and all of the, you've got the tapes are running, kind of the digital tapes that are running around that you'll see in the exchange. But when you look up through the ceiling, through kind of that's not scaffolding, but I don't know what the right word is. I'm not much of a construction guy or whatever, but to see the architecture in the ceiling, which you can still see up through there, it's quite remarkable. I mean, I've got a picture, a couple of pictures here in the office of the exchange from years and years ago, and you can still see that, that architecture that comes through that is really quite beautiful, and also enduring over generations. Now it's got all the modern things, which I think are all kind of throwaway things, but it still has that old architecture that still exists as you go through the building, as you look at it from the outside, and even as you're inside on the stock exchange floor. If you look through all the modern technology, you can still see the enduring architecture that's in there, and I think that's really cool. And I'd say one of the really neat things, Skip, that when we pulled up on the bus to go into the exchange and walk over to it to go through the process of doing it, we pulled up in front of a church. It's the Holy Trinity Church that has been there. That's right across the street from the stock exchange, and also there is the cemetery for the Holy Trinity Church is there. It's probably the only patch of grass in Manhattan, but that may be true. But also that church has been there since 1790, and that's quite remarkable as well when you see the church there and the exchange and all the extraordinary wealth that is created in there, and that church still sits there enduring through all of that. So I don't know, that made quite a mark on me. I felt like in some ways, I felt like when I was there, I wanted to go into that church as much or more than I wanted to go into the exchange. And maybe that's where I am in my walk in life. But I think it's appropriately placed there. And like I said, it has endured since 1790,
Wow.
and the exchange has been there since 1903. So there you go.
Wow. Well, it's shocking because how you described it, that you whisper, you really needed to whisper. The stock exchange has always been portrayed in movies as loud and people screaming and buy, sell, yelling, shaking their hands.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's not anything else that was surprising to you.
No, I mean, like I said, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. I think one of the things was in kind of just to allude into the vetting process, that the background checks that have to take place, is that there was a cancellation for one of the guys that was in our group that was going to go there, and as most of the listeners and watchers of the pod know, that I have very limited vision. I'm legally blind, and so I need someone to kind of guide me along. And my wife, Alita, had gone up there to New York with me, and so we thought when someone had canceled that that she would be able to go with me. She just kind of probably fill that role in because there was a space available. But she hadn't gone through the background check, and that's where we found out about the background check. Even the people that were sponsoring uh, me and the young lady that ended up helping me kind of traverse the New York landscape and the exchange landscape, didn't even realize that. But we checked on it, and they're like, "No, you got to be vetted." And I think, and I guess what I would say about that, I don't necessarily know if that's a surprising thing about it necessarily, but it shows you the world where we are now, that we have to be that cautious and careful about all those kind of things. But it's like, I mean, we had to empty our pockets. We had to go through. It's like going through an airport. It's like went to the top of the World Trade Center, or I guess it's called the Freedom Tower now. We did that, on the weekend that we had gone up. And also you go through the same process. It's just, I don't know, those things in the world just always kind of, I don't know if they still surprise me or not, or no, I'm not shocked by it, but it's kind of sad that we've gotten to that point, to be quite honest. But it's like I said, I mean, the exchange itself, 15 to 20 years ago, if I'd have gone in there, it would have been the most amazing thing that I could have ever done. Now, and it still was to an extent. I mean, it's like if you're in our business, it's like being invited to go to the Super Bowl, so seeing an iconic landmark and something that represents, what we do with money and where the money that we invest our clients with. The big stock exchange is the biggest exchange in the world. I mean, I think it's I can't remember what the number is, but it's billions of dollars every day. That the volume on the exchange is well in excess, up into billions of dollars. The wealth that exchanges hands and takes place in New York in general, but in the New York Stock Exchange is quite something. And I got to meet another very iconic. It was part of the group that I was with, a fellow by the name of Roger Ibbotson, who is a legend. He's 83 years old. He's been around. He's he's an academic. He's also a money manager. He's quoted in everything. You'll see Ibbotson charts and lots of data that comes that we use in our business to evaluate and benchmark things with. Roger Ibbotson is one of those guys that has been around for that long, and he was there and spoke to us in the backstage thing before we went. And at 83 years old, man, he's still vibrant. He's still rocking. He was there, talked to us for about 15, 20 minutes, hung around with the group for a little bit, and kind of did a meet and greet. And then he was off to I guess he was off to somewhere in South Carolina, maybe towards the Hilton Head area. There was what we call a CFA, a Chartered Financial Analyst meeting that he was flying to and doing some presenting down there. So it's longevity, kind of an iconic legend in the business. That was really cool for me to meet and see someone like that.
Wow.
That kind of heft in the business, let's say.
Very, very, very cool. Well, Jeff, what an incredible firsthand look at the heart of the financial world. Really appreciate you sharing your insights. And I don't know if maybe in a future episode did you take any pictures? Were you allowed to take pictures?
Yeah, I do. I have a number of pictures actually that Matt, as everybody knows, when we're doing these things, Matt's kind of the guy that makes sure that I get on here and at least I look as good as I can with what I've got to work with when I come on these pods. So we've got some pictures. I think we're putting them up on Facebook and the website, and maybe we can get them on here and we can kind of run through them. I got a picture taken, in front of the closing bell. We've got that with the bell in the background, and that's probably that is the loudest part of the day. At least when I was in there was when the bell rings. And then the CNBC, the Financial Network CNBC, they have what's known as the bubble that's in there. And so we were able to, and it's a glassed in thing. And so you can see they televise from there all day long, but they do their closing bell show from there. So we were able to see that happen, and we got some pictures of that. And that was really, that's neat to kind of touch that kind of thing. That's cool.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, maybe in a future episode, we can share some of your photos with our listeners.
I'd love to do it.
All right, man.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. And to our listeners, New York Stock Exchange, you heard it from Jeff directly. We'll see you next time for more expert discussions on investing and wealth strategies. Jeff, have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Skip. You too. Happy 4th, everybody.
Happy 4th.
Thanks for tuning into the Four Seasons podcast, brought to you by B&H Wealth Strategies, where your financial success is our priority. Schedule your free 20-minute consultation today by calling 423-247-1152 or by visiting bhretire.com. Take the first step toward making your financial dreams come true. Until next time, remember, every season is the right season to plan for your future. Securities and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. B&H Wealth Strategies and Silver Oak Securities, Inc. are not affiliated.